Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford DDC, and today we're taking a look at a collection of Kizer knives here. And what I mean by collection here is that these are the Laconic collection. I believe I'm saying that correctly. I want to say Laconico, but I know these aren't designed by Ray. These are the Laconic collection, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on all three of these guys here. Starting from left to right, we have the first one here, which is the Swedge. You can see it is a fairly large knife, especially when compared to the other two. Get a full-size grip on here with my large-size hands. You can choke up onto this flipper tab area as well. Nice blade on this Swedge along the top. You have not too bad of stock thickness, and this comes down to a pretty thin edge with a pretty tall flat grind in this case. The ergos are really good on this, no issues with that clip or anything. And the G10 is fine. You know, these are budget pieces, so I'm not going to be complaining about handle material choices. The D10 is absolutely money on this. It is super snappy, feels great, and the action on this is phenomenal. This has no blade play at all, and you can see how this drops to the finger and then just kind of closes itself with a little bit of gravity. So that is really nice. The Swedge cuts super well. The jimping is fairly purposeful that is on the spine here. It provides just enough grip to not slide around too much, and this one was a real pleasure to use. So this is probably my winner of the bunch here. Moving on, in this Jade G10 here, we have ourselves the Yacht. You can see that right there. Obviously, like I said, these are all Kizer knives. This one for me it feels very old, and I don't know how else to explain that, but it's the way the shape of the flipper tab and the overall design feels a lot like 6 years ago, maybe like 2016, 2017. It just kind of has that vibe, like that big flipper tab as being like the flipper only. You can see the way that sticks out. That is a pocket pecker if I have ever seen one, and it's definitely larger than it needs to be. It works fine. The D10 is a little on the lighter side, so having all that leverage isn't necessary. You could definitely get away with a shorter, what's the word? Flipper. I almost said clip. You could definitely get away with a shorter flipper on this, just due to that lighter detent. Ergonomically speaking, you have these kind of finger scallops, which fit the hand really well. I have no issues with hot spotting on this guy either, though it is a little small for my hand. You can see the pinky kind of just wants to hang out like half a finger here. I can squeeze my hand on here and get a full finger grip, but it's not super comfortable. Definitely more comfortable here in this kind of an area with just the pad of the pinky landing on where that screw is essentially. The jimping on this is not quite as aggressive as the Swedge, so it's not as effective, but you do kind of have this thumb ramp thing going on, which makes it fine. Pretty easy to lock in. This has a flat grind as well, though it's not as tall as the Swedge, and because of that, it's not quite as thin behind the edge either. This does cut just fine, but it is not the thinnest thing behind the edge, especially when compared to the other two here. So that's something to keep in mind. You are looking at bearings on this, so nice action regardless of the light blade and the fairly lightweight construction. These do have steel liners, but they are not heavy. The Swedge has a little bit of weight to it, but of course it is a larger knife. You can see how these two compare directly. Hopefully you can see the whole knife. I can't tell looking from down below with my camera here. But you can see it's significantly larger, so it's no surprise that this is a heavier knife, but it still feels quite balanced, as does the Yacht here. The Yacht is pretty balanced in hand and has absolutely no issues doing your typical EDC tasks. If you like the design, I think you could grind that flipper tab down just a little bit and it would be far more enjoyable. And last but not least, we have a button lock flipper, kind of everyone's favorite combination, and this is the Amicus, which you can see right there. This guy is tiny. It's like a three finger knife for me. The pinky just barely lands on there. This guy has some jimping. It's not quite aggressive enough for me, but it'll do the job, especially if you're kind of bearing down on it. This has a pretty tall flat grind. It's kind of hard to see because of the coating, but you can see where the grind ends there. And this flat grind continues all the way up to the top. No swedging or anything on this, and you don't reduce any thickness until this point here, where the flat grind surpasses this flat area. So you have a very robust blade with plenty of meat behind the tip if you wanted to do any kind of penetrating or piercing. Certainly an option with this guy. So that is a thing. The button lock detent on this is not great, but it's not bad either. You saw me fail it there. It's definitely failable, but if you come at it with intent, you can both push button or light switch this pretty much with no issue. You just have to be intentional about it. If you kind of half-ass it, it will fail on the way out. So be intentional about it with this guy. No lock stick, and the action is really good on the close. You have bearings on this guy, obviously. See the way this is dropping. Yeah, action is damn good. You can almost reverse flick this. There's just enough blade exposed to get in there with the thumb as well. So if the flipper's not your jam, then that is technically an option, though it's not meant for that. Like I said, this is a little small for me, and it ends up being a little chunky. You can see just how thick this is, and in comparison to the others, it's really not all that different. You can see it's definitely a little bit thicker than the yacht here, just a little bit with the extra handle width, and then it is definitely just a hair thicker than the Swedge. Which is fine. You know, being smaller, the thicker handle actually helps give you a pretty decent grip on this. But again, it's just a little small for me, and that's the biggest thing. The design is very simple. It's a very straightforward flipper button lock. You know, I could see Kizer making this a frame lock or a liner lock if it doesn't already exist. But you know, this guy cuts just fine with a you know, like if not super tall flat grind, but certainly the majority of the blade. The tip does stay a little bit thick when you're cutting through material, but other than that, it cuts just fine. It is a flat grind. You know, most flat grinds, unless they're stupid thick, are going to cut pretty well. So this is no exception to that, and the action on the close is pretty good, and the sound it makes, if you're into the acoustics kind of a thing, it's very snappy. It's a very authoritative pop when this guy gets open. So that is probably going to do it there. So these are the Kizer Laconic series, at least the 3 that we were able to check out in the YouTube Knife Unboxers Pass Around group. That's Lefty EDC's group. So yeah, the Swedge, the Yacht, and the Amicus. Those are my thoughts on those, and let me know what you think down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on these, excuse me. And yeah, I appreciate all the support, and I hope to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.